Today's video, we're going to be talking about how employees can clock in or out by using our software. Now, there are multiple different ways that our employees can punch in or out. There's different methods. We have the mobile app. They can punch in or out through their smartphone, or we have the physical time clocks that are located in designated areas around campus, or in our case, the third option, which we'll be using on this training, is through the web clock. So you can clock in or out through a web page that I have opened up here. Now, uh, in all three methods, the steps are pretty much the same. And you'll see here that they're pretty straightforward, pretty easy. So the first thing that I'll have to do in order to clock in is identify myself. And to identify myself, I could do it one of two ways. The first one could be through the banner ID number. If I know my banner ID, I can enter that number. Side note, I want to make sure that I enter the plus sign in front of my banner ID number. Make sure I have that entered. Or the second option would be through a badge. If I have my badge on hand and if I know the number of the badge, I can enter that as well. Or through a physical time clock, I can just tap my badge and it'll identify me that way as well. Through the magic of technology. Now, in this case, I'm going to identify myself using a badge number. So I'll enter that in. I'm going to press the green clock in button. I'm going to get a confirmation. I'm clocking in as Antique here. I'm going to hit continue at the bottom right corner. And my next step is to identify my position location, or location for short. Now, depending on the position that you're working or even the area that you might be working under, you might have a list of locations to select from, or you might have a smaller number. So don't panic if you have a short list from what you see here, or if you see kind of the same number. The good news is that if you were to log into your primary location is always going to show up at the very top. So in my case, clocking in as Antique, her location is Maple Street Commons. So I can select that option and hit continue. And I get a message, clock in operation successful. Now, I want to make sure that I get that message because that is the very last thing that I'll see, completing my punch operation. And two, this lets me know that I did everything in my power to clock in into Time Clock Plus. So right now, the software is, tracking my time. So I can hit OK. This will take me back to the same page that I was from before at the very beginning. So now my next coworker can come in and punch in and go through the same steps. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Now there could be another scenario. This person was someone that was very simplistic. This person has just one position that they work under. Well, what happens if you have multiple positions? Like, let's say a student employee. So this person that could work maybe in different departments throughout the day or maybe at certain days. So again, I'm going to identify myself. I'm going to log in as someone else here. So 800, I'm going to hit the green clock in button. I'm going to go and I'm going to see the same steps. I'm going to get my confirmation. This time I'm John Doe. I'm going to click continue. And there's one extra step that's submitted for John Doe, and that is picking my position. What job am I going to clock in under? So I have two options in here. For a student employee that only has one single job, you won't get this step. But for anyone else that has more than one, like a student specialist or student assistant in this case, you're going to get this step. Now, kind of similar to what we saw before, the good news is that your primary position is one, not only situated or located at the very top, so it's always going to be the first one on the list. But two, you'll notice that there's something very special about this position. It's showing up in green. The only reason why this position shows up in green is because that is your primary, that's your main job. So if you were to clock in and you have multiple, positions to look at, but let's say you're clocking into your main job that you always go in the morning, it's always going to be on the top of the list, and you don't even have to pick it. It's going to pick it for you. But you do have the ability to go and pick whichever job you need. So I can always jump into student assistant if I wanted to. So I'm going to pick the first one there. I'm going to hit continue. Then I get the option of picking the location. And you'll see in here that I still have a list. Again, just a reminder, the list could be shorter than what you see here. So don't panic if you see a shorter list on your end. But you'll also notice that the first option that I have here is Garden Commons, which is different from the other employee, which was Maple Street. So again, this is their primary, this is their main location. It's always going to show up at the top of the list. So I'm going to pick that option. I'm going to hit continue. And clock operation successful. I get that same message again. I did everything that I needed to do, and I'm clocked in at the moment. So I'm going to hit OK. It'll take me back to the main page. All right, so at that point, I'll just have to, clock in, stay working until I take my lunch break. Okay, so I'm ready to take a lunch. It's been a few hours. I want to take my meal break. So I'm going to go through the same steps like I did before when I was clocking in. So first, I need to identify myself. So I'll enter my number there. And now I'm going to take a lunch break. So what I'll do is I'll press the leave meal break button that is located right below the green clock in button. So it's going to be right below it. Press that button. I get a confirmation. I hit continue. Leave on break operation successful. So you'll notice that the steps were a little bit less. You clock in, it's going to ask you, if you have multiple positions, what position you're going to work in, or if you need to work at a location, what location. And then clock operation successful. Whereas when you're taking a meal break, it understands that you're leaving and you might be coming back in 30 minutes, an hour, however long you're going to take your meal break. So if you're going to come back immediately, you're not going to take 2 hours or any of that sort. You can press the leave on meal break button. And it understands to now keep track of how long you were on a meal break, how long it took you to take that lunch. And that's just for reporting purposes, that's for auditing purposes, just to make sure that your supervisor understands that you would be coming within 15 minutes, 30 to an hour. One thing to note is that these steps are going to be similar. It does not matter if you work more than one position, if you work a single position, or if you have a long or short list of locations to choose from. You're always going to press the leave meal break button and have those steps and always get that message of clock operation successful. Okay, so it's been about an hour and you're ready to come back to work. So again, I'm going to come into the web clock. I'm going to identify myself. This time I'm going to press on the return meal break button, which is located right below the blue clock out button. I'm going to get my confirmation. Now you'll notice that there's something a little bit slightly different to this confirmation. You'll see that I now have a timer that tells me how long I've been on a meal break. So in this case, I've been about less than an hour here, and if I keep talking, it'll hit the full 60 minutes. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit continue and clock operation successful. So and it understands that I'm coming back to work, and it assumes that I'm going to clock into my position, the same location. And now I'm clocked in. I hit OK, and it took me back to the main page, and I'm ready to go to work. So from here, I just go to work, and then at the end of the day, once I'm ready to go home, I can one more time enter my ID number, but this time I'm going to press the blue clock out button. Get my confirmation, I hit continue, clock out operation successful, hit OK. There we go, we get the web page, and the next employee in line can clock out. So the idea of a punch operation is pretty straightforward. You identify yourself, you press a button, whichever one you need to do at that moment. You get a confirmation, and depending on whether you're clocking in, you have to pick what position or what location you're at. And at the end, you should get an operation successful message.